Hello there and welcome to Chinese Virtual Grand Prix. Now, we had last week off, I hope you didn't miss us too much, but now we're back with more than enough to make up for it. What a showstopper of a grid we have, and we are definitely going to get some brilliant race action. Joining me tonight on the desk is Sky F1 presenter Natalie. Natalie, I know that you've been enjoying all the races that have been going on. What's impressed you most about these races?
Well, can I just say what a pleasure it is to be here, not least because it's the first time I've left the house for a month. We are socially distanced.
Yes.
Is that an expression? Social distance. Anyway,
we kept it, yes.
We're far apart. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Like any motorsport fan, I've really missed my fix of racing, and this has got a long way to substitute for that. This is compelling stuff. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, and obviously with the situation of COVID-19, we have had this to bring some fun, to bring some joy, and we've definitely had that. I know that you're enjoying a Virtual Grand Prix in Vietnam, which took place in Australia and Albert Park.
Yeah, that confused me, but I've got my head around that now. It was the Vietnam Grand Prix weekend, but it took place around Albert Park.
Exactly.
And it was brilliant.
And obviously everyone's loving it at the moment. I know my next door neighbours, Ralph and Danny, are watching. They've never watched sim racing before, but you're bringing a little essence of what the Sky F1 and the real life race is to combine tonight.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to be in China right now. We're all very excited about that. We don't know when we're going to go racing again, but I have to say Codemasters have done an exceptional job. The graphics are astonishing good. We've been watching it. I've watched Albert Park and thinking, hang on a minute, am I actually watching the race? I mean, this is a run from last year. It was magnificent, and we saw some great racing, a bit of cheating as well, I have to say.
Let's not mention John Herbert. We said we weren't going to mention it, but listen, obviously that was taking place the Virtual Grand Prix in Vietnam, which actually happened in Australia. But since then, we're sad to say that we lost a legend in racing in Sir Sterling Moss. Now, this happened, I know fans out there know what it means, but to put into words, and I know you've interviewed him, how much of an icon in F1 he was.
I mean, a national treasure. The greatest ever racer never to win a world championship. He finished runner-up 4 times and third place a further 3 times. I mean, a true gentleman. And yeah, he was sorely missed. He reached the grand age of 90 years old. If anyone wants to see a gorgeous bit of footage, it was footage Mercedes back in 2015. Have a look at that on YouTube. It sums up his character beautifully. And yes, as I say, he was sorely missed, and our thoughts are very much with Lady Susie and the family.
All right, well, listen, as we get into this evening's proceedings, just to remind everybody, if you did miss 2 weeks ago, the Virtual Grand Prix in Vietnam, here's all the action for you.
The race gets underway. George Russell alongside on the front row, so maybe Christian Lundgaard did get a 5-place penalty, so it's Leclerc that leads. Proving adept at making his way through the field and spinning round there, and that's not what the Red Bull needed. Alexander Albon heading backward. He's not the only one with a Toro Rosso heading off. Everyone's suffering from that. Surely this time Lundgaard is going to try to late lunge. Yes, he is, and he's going to move up to a second position. Can he get it slowed down? He can. He can't take the position. Leclerc just a couple of wheels on the dirt as he came down into turn 13. They're side by side. Round the outside from Christian Lundgaard. What a great move. And I think Arthur Leclerc's in trouble. We're on board with him. Giovinazzi got out of shape. Leclerc finds the inside line and cruises past down into the first corner. Leclerc was running second in the early stage, but had a spin. Our current Formula 2 driver against the second-tier champion, and he'll hope, let's see, the Mercedes disappearing from view. No, it's not. Good stuff from Van Dorn, and he stays ahead. And Alex out of the 10, but he's cool-darted it down at turn 15. Charles Leclerc across the line to win the Virtual Grand Prix in Australia. Very impressive drive from Leclerc.
Well, I think you'll agree, some fantastic race action. There for you 6 F1 current drivers in the midst, and look at that, Charles Leclerc, 8 days he'd been sim racing, finishes on top spot. Christian Lundgaard for Renault and George Russell, brilliant race. I have to say, looking at number 9th place there, Jimmy Broadbent, the shed dweller, massive in the sim world. He went from P15 to 9th. It was a brilliant race. Obviously, Charles Leclerc, incredible race was up for him, I see.
Yeah, I mean, you say 8 days, but he was putting practice. Talk about cramming before an exam. He was there at home, slamming the hours on the sim, and yeah, fair play to him. And Jenson Button, what a great result for him. He's a newbie to the sport as well. Just goes to show that have got those transferable skills between real racecraft and sim work like this. And Anthony Davidson, P15, I expected more from him, quite frankly. 6'7", so he's going to have to stick with sim work, isn't he? But yeah, what a lineup. Ian Poulter, I know, is a massive fan of McLaren, so it'd be great to see him racing against them. And as you say, both McLaren drivers, Carlos Sainz, making his debut tonight. So this is exciting stuff. And listen, these are competitive guys with a lot of time on their hands, so they will have been putting in a lot of prep for this, and they'll be taking it very seriously. A bit of fun because they're at their homes, they're able to relax, but bragging rights are at stake here.
They are indeed, and obviously I'm hoping Thibaut Courtois, fantastic sim driver, will do better than Sir Chris Hoy and Ben Stokes, just to name 2 names. Listen, they have had time to make these messages for everyone before we get to the race.
Hey guys, as many of you have seen, I've signed up for this weekend's Virtual Grand Prix in China. Looking forward to it. I've sorted all my little things that I had to do with my simulator here at home, and I think I'm ready. Let's see how it goes. See you guys.
What's up, everyone? We've got the Virtual Chinese Grand Prix coming up this weekend. I'm very excited. I'm actually hoping to take part in the race this week and not get kicked out. So yeah, I'm hoping to have a lot of fun. I hope to see you there.
Hi guys, it's Thibaut Courtois here. I'm really excited to be racing this Sunday in the Virtual GP alongside Alex Albon in the Red Bull. I'm really happy to be part of the Red Bull e-racing sport family for this Sunday. They shared some tips, they helped me train as well this week, so looking forward to the race and racing together as well with Alex, who I faced a few times already on track, well, on a virtual game. So happy to be alongside him this Sunday. See you all there.
What's up? It's Guan Yuzhou here. As you can see, I'm now in the simulator, ready for the Chinese GP tonight. And here's my simulator setup. So you can see we've got the Fanatec wheel, got the screen, and yeah, got a nice seat, comfortable. So make sure you guys watch the race live tonight and cheer Renault up. So hopefully can show you good race and having some great fun with all the friends.
He returns, Guan Yuzhou,
Yes.
obviously winning the first virtual Grand Prix in Bahrain. That would be hotting up. What did you make of those videos? Carlos Sainz's garden looked immaculate.
It really did. Not like Lando Norris's hair. Notice how he's still got his cap on.
Yeah.
Oh, he makes me laugh, though. He's brilliant. And I'm glad to see he's back. He's had a few technical problems, but, you know, he's an absolute beast on the sim. Spends his whole life on the sim. Forget the lockdown. He was doing that beforehand.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see great things from him tonight.
All right, brilliant. Well, I'm looking forward to this very much, as I'm sure you are. We'll get the race underway very shortly. Before that, though, the Shanghai International Circuit has treated us to some brilliant special moments over the years. Here's a reminder of them.
You hang like a torpedo.
Push hard now. Great job.
There you go. Some very special moments from Shanghai. Any moments that stand out for you when you've been there as part of the Sky F1 team?
Well, I didn't go in 2016, but Daniel Ricciardo won it that year, and with a very dodgy haircut. And I've seen a fair few dodgy home haircuts at the moment, so that maybe is a good sign that we'll see some decent racing tonight.
Indeed. Now, two gentlemen who are looking very dapper and very smart this evening.
With
up
their
in the
own haircuts.
Yeah, very own. They must have thinning scissors for the hair up there. Of course, we have Matt Gallagher being joined by Alex Jakes. Gentlemen, one of the hottest property in the commentating world, Alex Jakes, no pressure. You're working alongside with Mr. Matt Gallagher. Are you looking forward to it?
Can't wait. Who's the hot property, Tom?
That would be you, Alex Jakes.
Well, I'll take that, Tom. Nicely done. I think you might have meant Matt, but delighted to be joined by Matt up here. It does promise to be a really entertaining race, and before that, qualifying session as well.
Yeah, so gentlemen, what would you be looking forward to in this? I know, Matt, you're a massive fan of the Shanghai International Circuit.
Yeah, I am. I love China. I love watching it in real life. I love playing it on the game as well. So I think it's going to be a pretty entertaining race. Well, if we look at last time, if we've seen all the Twitch streams that all the F1 drivers have been doing, it's going to be carnage, as Natalie said, and I cannot wait to see who sends it up the inside of the hairpin in the last sector.
Matt, what sort of assists will they be running? Because they've got the opportunity to do it, but will they?
Probably not. The top guys, Charles Leclerc, you know, Albon, they're all not running assists because it's the quickest way. If they're running assists, it can hinder the car a little bit. So I expect full F1 Esports Pro Series stuff for these guys at the front. Maybe the ones that are picking up Immobile, for example, might be running assists. But I don't know. I've never seen him sim race, so that's just assuming.
Well, listen, he's a fantastic footballer, so let's see if he's got the skills to pay the bills with the F1 driving. Gentlemen, I'll leave it in your capable hands for qualifier.
Thank you very much, Tom. Looking forward to this an awful lot. We have seen some excellent stuff already, and we have glorious blue skies, great conditions at Shanghai International Circuit, and we join this qualifying session already in progress with the driver to beat at the top of the timing page. Only one start, but one win for Charles Leclerc. He has been absolutely rapid since he took delivery of his sim setup, and he is very, very impressive. We ride on board with the Ferrari driver at the moment, who appears to have taken to sim racing, Matt, like a duck to water.
It's ridiculous. I was watching his Twitch streams, you know, I was watching his replay as well after Australia, or the Vietnam GP. and he is just on the limit all the time. His qualifying from last time would have put him just at the back of the F1 Esports Pro Series guys, and this is, wow, especially when there's different rules, these setups as well. These guys don't know the nuances of changing, you know, the dampers, everything in the car. They can change all sorts of things. So for Charles Leclerc, he probably hasn't learnt that side of the game yet. So it's pretty interesting. Charles Leclerc 7/10 as well, 7/10 ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn. I love to see Van Dorn get up there again. He's very quick on the sim. He's involved with all sorts of series. Every invite he's ever got, he's there on the grid.
The man loves the party. He loves the sim race, and he's currently loving this circuit. P2 at the moment with Louis Delatraz, the F2 racer in P3 ahead of Alexander Albon, looking to avoid the crash he had here in the Toro Rosso 1 year ago, looking to avoid what he did on the opening lap of the race in Albert Park. Then we've got Esteban Gutierrez on board at the moment with the Williams of George Russell after his P3 last time out at Albert Park. Then Pietro Fittipaldi, Antonio Giovinazzi, a debut for Carlos Sainz, and the winner of the opening round of the season, Guan Yu Zhou, rounding out the top 10. Everyone, well, 19 with time on the board, and right now we're focusing on the Swiss driver. He's a terrific chap. He's got a couple of second places. That's his best in Formula 2, and he is getting close to that in the F1 Virtual GP qualifying session. But Guan Yu Zhou, he would be so determined to repeat what he did in Bahrain around this circuit a year ago, Matt. He was demoing a Renault Formula 1 car around here, called it one of the proudest days of his life, and now he wants to carry on representing his nation by taking it to the top of the timing pages.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic to see him involved. He was amazing around Bahrain, gave us a fantastic win there.
Dominant, wasn't he, in Bahrain?
Yeah, and it wasn't from the get-go either in terms of qualifying. He wasn't the fastest. We didn't know exactly where he was going to stack up, but my goodness me, is he quick on this F1 game. And I imagine a 30.5 is not his last saying in this qualifying session. Something to kind of make sure we all take a look at is the fact that the track can change quite a bit over these next 10 minutes. Just because it's not raining doesn't mean it can't change. It beds in, it gets grippier. So 29.6, I have to say, if we were looking at the F1 Esports Pro Series, guys, I would say a low 129 would be the benchmark. Charles Leclerc is a 29.6. This man needs to chill out and let everyone else have a chance.
Well, this is the time to get on terms, because we saw what he could do when he got clear last time with the Albert Park circuit. He checked out, to be honest. It was a dominant win. It was an assured performance, and he's looking as good in this as he is in real life. Guan Yu Zhou using all of the tarmac and a little bit more to maybe get a little bit of momentum onto the pit straight underneath the giant grandstand. And he is into turn 1, which goes on for such a long time. Down from 8th gear to 2nd, and then traction limited as he tries to put his foot to the floor, and he hopes that he's got the grip underneath him to try and improve from 10th place. Matt, I know you love this circuit. Talk us through it.
I absolutely do. It's very difficult. The corner he's just come out, the turn 3 is the most difficult traction area, but there are so many heavy traction zones on this circuit. The middle sector, very much single file. Now just hang it as much as you possibly can in 6th gear, and then just throw it in and hope to God that it sticks. And just the front end can sometimes wash out if you take a little bit too much speed. This, again, so difficult on the power. The curbs just bite you. Guan Yu Zhou has kind of forgotten where the track is there slightly, appearing to take advantage of the AstroTurf, but I would imagine he would get away with that because I think the corner cutting rules are on lenient. So maybe he's just taking it, well, he's a racing driver. He's making as much advantage as he possibly can, although I will slap his wrists if I see that too many more times. Not that that does anything to his ending position, but yeah. What a great circuit. I absolutely love it. This is going to be the best overtaking opportunity in the race. One thing to point out, 50% race. So these guys haven't done their research, because the fastest strategy would be to start on the mediums, not the soft tyres. As we're going to have to move spectator cam, because I'm going to get very angry as he goes up to P5 with a 130.356. But the strategy, if we see anyone starting on the mediums, they're in the pound seats, because it is a one-stop as the Red Bull gets out of the way of the Mercedes. Just about Alex Albon there.
Yeah, Alex Albon pretty static at the moment.
On his live feed, how lovely.
On his outlap, look at the concentration there. We usually only see this at the Singapore Grand Prix with those fantastic shots looking back at the driver. But is he taking it seriously? He looks like he's taking it very seriously indeed. So Albon at the bottom of the screen. DRS open, heading to turn number 1. and how much can he take through here. Currently in fourth, Delatraz, Van Dorn and Leclerc ahead of him, and he will attempt to move up to the front row at the very least. A lot of time to find, though, if he's going to do that. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3, and it'll be interesting to see traffic in the way as well, which is always an issue. Two quick guys as well that he's trying to get on terms with. First one getting out of the way, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Pietro Fittipaldi, who he is just ahead of at the moment, as you can see. And George Russell, his good friend, has demoted him. Less of a good friend after that lap from George Russell, who is in P4 now. And Nicholas Latifi goes ahead of his 2020 teammate. Remember, in real life, George Russell's never been out-qualified by a teammate in Formula 1. Right now, virtually at least, that is changing. Albon not with the tightest line through the chicane that takes you onto the back straight, but it's looked a decent lap, man.
Yeah, you mentioned about Latifi and Russell. They had a brilliant ding-dong yesterday for the Veloce 1v1 series around Canada. They were wheel-banging. I don't think Claire would be particularly happy with those guys doing that in real life, but it's great to see they're very competitive and very close on pace as well. 4th and 5th at the moment. No one's really touching that 29.6 by Charles Leclerc at the moment, as the track does bed in even more. They've clearly learned something with going wider than 2-car, 3-4-car widths. So, yeah, Alex Albon up to 3rd with that 129.983, just behind Stoffel Van Dorn. But I'll be very interested to see if there are any medium runners here, because they're going to struggle. It's a one-stop race. They're going to struggle to get these softs to the laps sort of 9, 10, 11, where they want to be pitting. So let's see as we have 5 minutes left in this session.
So we've got Guan Yu Zhou returning. We've also got Callum Ilott making his debut. He's just ahead of Ciro Immobile and Thibaut Courtois, taking part for the first time in the Virtual Grand Prix. So good to have them with us. Callum Ilott from Formula 2 and Ciro Immobile with a super season. He's Team Lazio, only 1 point behind Juventus, who have been dominant champions in recent years. And Thibaut Courtois used to play football not too far away from where we're talking to you, just the other side of the studio at Stamford Bridge. So all with connections right now, but having to enjoy this lap. And Anthony Davidson, he's had the pressure put on him by Napoli earlier on. That Sky team, they're an unforgiving bunch, I tell you, Matt. And Davidson right now, looking to try and improve. He has seemed to be locked in a battle with Jimmy Broadbent every single time in qualifying. And Davidson trying to improve from 15th position. 4 minutes to go, and it's Leclerc, Van Dorn, Albon, Delatraz, Latifi ahead of Russell, Fittipaldi, then Joe Gutierrez, Giovinazzi, Carlos Sainz on debut at the moment, good enough for 11th. And then Callum Ilott, Ciro Immobile, Thibaut Courtois, and Anthony Davidson, who's coming back to the pits, abandoning that lap. Behind him, Broadbent, Poulter, Juan Manuel Correa, and Liam Lawson, the 19, with time. At the moment, the time to beat is a 29.6. Can Stoffel Van Dorn find an answer for Charles Leclerc?
You're mentioning Anthony Davidson. I still cannot get over one of the funniest stories I've heard in esports, where he did the entire race around Bahrain on his own because they didn't realise they'd left the lobby and started a new one. I mean, my heart goes out to him, because I'm sure he had a great race, but just no one saw it. But it's good to see that Anthony's now involved in this race. He's down in P15, as you say, locked in with Jimmy Broadbent. Maybe that's why they're teammates, is that they can't be separated. But it's also great to see Jimmy Broadbent. The thing I love about him is that he feels he does not deserve to be on this grid right now. You know, he is a huge content creator. He's huge in the sim racing community. He would just be like, well, why am I racing against F1 drivers? And I love that about him. He's not a particularly fast F1 2019 driver. He never really says that he's a fast sim racer, but he is very good. He's very consistent, and it's great to see him involved just ahead of Ian Poulter, who is back again. Love to see him racing. He has a fantastic sim setup. I've had the pleasure of actually racing on it once when I was over in America, and it is amazing. Much better than anything I've got at home. So it's great to see him there. 17th, he's picking up the pace. 133.1, I think he'll be happy with that.
And tell us the differences. What makes it a great sim setup for maybe people at home who are watching for the first time? What would the differences be?
Well, his wheel is a very expensive one, as you would imagine. He's got fantastic brakes as well, hydraulic brakes. They're not the ones where you have to really feather it. There's people out there that will, well, me included once, well, not me actually, it was a guy called Noble, who I used to race against, who had a sponge underneath his brake pedal because he wanted more feel, but his brakes didn't give him that. So Latifi actually, just seen there, got a 5-place grid penalty. Not sure what that was for, but back to the sim setup. Yeah, he has 3 screens. He has this amazing feel on the brakes and the force feedback as well through the steering wheel. It's just the full package, as that is Callum Ilott, Charles Leclerc's teammate, down in 12th and making a mistake on his flying lap, it seems. So that might well be Callum Ilott finished for this qualifying session.
Not what Callum Ilott needed at all. On the podium a couple of times last year in
Russell as well, 5-place grid penalty. Illegal blocking.
So both of the Williams taking penalties. That's a real shame for them, because at the very least where they would have been starting from, Nicholas Latifi's penalty map was for a collision with Jimmy Broadbent, and now Russell for blocking. I don't think they'll be impressed with that at all, but those are the penalties that they've got. So we're into the final 90 seconds of qualifying. As you can see, everyone down to Callum Ilott on an out lap, and we've got a yellow flag in sector 3. So first of all, George Russell knows he's going to get the penalty. Can he respond and find a huge amount of lap time when he needs it most? So just backing off for the time being, just biding his time before he goes for one final lap in qualifying. There is the green LED, and they're all using this super wide line that you'd never seen in a real Formula 1 session, but someone's clocked that and they're all copying it. That might be the fastest way around the 5.4 kilometers. Russell on his final lap of the session then, with that penalty to come. Same applies for his teammate.
Everyone's getting illegal blocking penalties. I think that was Giovinazzi, Van Dorn as well. These guys must literally be stopping out on track, because I know this Codemasters game like the back of my hand, and you can't get illegal blocking unless you are honestly stopping and trying to get some space. Well, it's 30 seconds to go. They're trying to get some space for their laps, and they're paying the price for it. So lots of guys are going to be falling down the grid when we get this final classification. But right now, Van Dorn on his flying lap. Can he get anywhere near Charles Leclerc? This is the best point where the track is very much rubbered in. 14 seconds to go. They're all using the AstroTurf. I'm trying not to get angry with it, but they're all doing the same thing. So if they haven't done their homework, then they won't be using it. But for now, it's going to be very interesting. George Russell, 30.2 at the moment. It seems like he's a few tenths off Charles Leclerc from what I've watched. And I think that, you know, he just hasn't really picked it up yet. They've been playing all sorts of games. They've been playing trucking games. It's amazing
truck
to watch,
simulator.
Yeah. You're a truck simulator. It's just incredible to watch all these guys. I still have to pinch myself. Like even last night, just watching them all playing the F1 game. It is a dream of mine from when I used to play the F1 games, and here they are. They're all playing it for our entertainment.
Amazing stuff. To the business end of qualifying then. Can anyone catch Charles Leclerc? Starting with George Russell, who goes up to second place with that penalty to come. Super lap from George Russell to improve to the front row. And unless they've got Louis Delatraz maintains 4th position. Latifi maintains 6th. So right now, not a lot of improvement out there. Can Davidson find any time? Let's have a look. Davidson goes over the line. Not really. It's Leclerc, then Russell, Albon in 3rd, Delatraz in 4th, Van Dorn down to 5th, then Latifi and Guan Yu Zhou, then Esteban Gutierrez, Antonio Giovinazzi and Pietro Fittipaldi at the moment. So Sainz and Albon have exited. Charles Leclerc did not need to improve on his 1:29 for the time being. Thibaut Courtois pipping Anthony Davidson. That is a strange sentence, that one. And I think Anthony's about to hear some more criticism from Napoli, and Jimmy Broadbent has gone ahead of his teammate as well. Ian Poulter down there in 19th, but a super performance once again from Charles Leclerc, the winner last time, and now he's put it on pole position. He's very much the driver to beat. So a super performance from Charles Leclerc. He's the driver who's going to start on pole.
Qualifying done and dusted. Some surprising names of performances. We'll get to Anthony Davidson in a second, because I know you're not going to give him an easy time. But I have to say, I mean, Charles Leclerc, where is this guy in the terms of the sim racing world?
Just magnificent, isn't he? I mean, he's taken to it like a duck to water, but I guess that's what you'd expect. He's fast in real life. He's fast in a sim. Yeah, very calm performance from him today, and put it on pole again. Yeah, it did indeed. Now, Jimmy Broadbent, a sim content producer in the world of YouTube, I mean, he loves a slow start. I was P19 back in Bahrain for the Virtual Grand Prix, and in the last race, he started out in P15 and then moved up to 9th. So this guy likes to start way down. Unfortunately, Lando didn't join. Norris Norris, what has happened again? This is so frustrating. We thought this was his opportunity to shine, but yeah, such a shame. Listen, we want to see people coming from the back, don't we? We see a lot of overtakes in China. It's a track that lends itself well to that in real racing, and it's the same here. So we want to see some strong performances in the race. Anthony, I'm just so gutted for him. He's a great guy, great racer, and he deserves better than P18. But listen, I think this grid's going to be a bit mixed up with these blocking penalties that are coming in. Stoffel Van Dorn, someone that many think deserves another chance in Formula One. You remember him back in Bahrain in 2016 scoring points on his debut when he had to step in for Fernando Alonso at very short notice. I mean, everyone was like, this is the next big thing. He's great. And, yeah, put in a great performance today, but that blocking penalty may see him slip down the grid.
Yeah, indeed. And, I mean, Matt Gallagher was talking about the illegal blocking. They literally must have just stopped to try and free up some space. Incessant movement makes him a nightmare to mark. Ciro Immobile is there in P13. So I'll tell you what, this is hotting up for a very, very exciting race. And I can confirm the Pirelli pole position, obviously, as we said, goes to Charles Leclerc. So he's got it all to do again, but I mean, he was so confident in the virtual Vietnam Grand Prix that actually you expect him to hold on to this lead.
You absolutely do, yeah. Started on pole, finished at the front, and on his debut. As we say, he has been putting in a lot of hours at home on the sim, but he only started this, what, less than 2 weeks ago? Yeah, well, listen, hopefully Lando Norris can join us, Natalie. We'll pass it over back now to Matt Gallagher and to Alex Jakes. Gentlemen, I know you've got banter. I know you've got banter, and you'll be listening into the drivers, I believe.
We certainly will be. Looking forward to that. We'll be hearing from the drivers in a few moments' time. But Matt, who, outside of Leclerc, do you think is going to provide the real challenge to the Ferrari driver?
It's a difficult one. Van Dorn was very close, but Charles Leclerc just out of nowhere, 29.6, thanks a lot, just chilling out for the next 16 minutes. So for me, you can't look anywhere past him, but it is a 1 kilometre back straight, so anything can happen over the first few laps. When DRS gets enabled on lap 3, I think we'll see some overtakes, and I hope, more than think, that Charles Leclerc won't be romping away.
Could easily have a mixed-up grid in terms of what we see from those penalties. So it will be very interesting to see the order that we've eventually got, and if anyone is able to anyone's able to go through. Okay, right now we can check in with some of the drivers.
Hi. Hello, guys. Firstly, we need a protest here. We've been given a penalty for nothing. My life, P2. Just
I saw George. What he did was completely no. Completely out of order. What he did, unbelievable.
Don't give me that.
You're lucky you were disqualified from that. That was disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
I'm actually being serious here, guys. I'm dead serious. We need a regrid. We need to customize the grid.
Customize the grid.
Yeah, you can do that on this game. I'm not happy.
Can you put me in pole then?
I qualified second, mate. I'll be given a 5-place penalty.
Yeah, but if you didn't do that move, you must P5. Where's everyone else as well?
Are we live here, guys, or what's happening?
I think we are. I think they're just listening to us. I have no idea.
What's happening? I've got no idea.
Hi, Lando.
We're absolutely listening to you guys, and it's great to see that you're all angry about some things that have happened in qualifying, but there you go. Predicted pit stop strategy. As I said, I think the medium to hard is going to be better. It doesn't look like anybody is starting on the mediums, at least I can't see at the front of the grid. Well, they wouldn't have been with those 29 lap times, but we're ready for the start, Alex.
Here we go, 3, 4, 5 red lights at Shanghai International Circuit, and the Virtual Grand Prix of China is underway with Charles Leclerc leading the field from pole position, Albon in second place, and then Louis Delatraz, and immediately trying to make amends for that penalty and getting onto the grass. I think that was George Russell who's going backwards, but it's an easy maintain of the lead for Charles Leclerc, and meanwhile they're going 4 wide, sorting it out as they go down to turn number 2. Albon in second place, Gutierrez up to third. Guan Yu Zhou desperately wants to win his home race. He's up to 4th with Stoffel Van Dorn in 5th place. We had a Williams on the grass at the start, and making the move in the background there was Antonio Giovinazzi trying to move up to 7th position. Going wide there was Esteban Gutierrez. So up to 3rd place goes Guan Yu Zhou. We're on board with Stoffel Van Dorn in P5.
What a start from Zhou, up to P3, really getting in the mix already. Charles Leclerc out in front, 9/10 ahead of Albon. He's not really going to have any chances, Alex, going down that straight unless Charles makes a mistake. They're all going very wide, as we see there, gaining as much time as they possibly can.
Oh, that's Carlos Sainz into the wall on debut and heading to the back of the pack. The damage is reduced, so he'll be able to get going again, but Sainz dropping it, and that's real disappointment for him on debut.
He was looking really good. When he was spinning, which was the only time I've seen him so far, it was that he was on the mediums. So that was a very good qualifying time if that is the case. As a Ferrari going, that's not going to gain you any time.
Callum Ilott in the background. The two Mercedes going wheel to wheel into turn 14. Stoffel Vandoorne trying to get past his teammate. Both of these drivers in Formula 1 before, and now it's a move for P4 for Stoffel Vandoorne, trying to make his way up. He was the second fastest qualifier, but got the penalty, and they are taking a wild line through turn 16. You've got to be careful not to touch the gravel if you go out that far. Coming into this battle as well, on board with him right now, Louis Delatraz, Swiss F2 racer, trying to get past Esteban Gutierrez, and Stoffel Vandoorne, as you can see, up to P4. Super stuff from Guan Yu Zhou to get up to P3, and he's a second away from Alexander Albon, who is 6/10 away from race leader in the Ferrari, Charles Leclerc.
Got to say, Jimmy Broadbent up to P9, the sim shed dweller. What a performance on lap 1.
He loves a race charge.
I feel like he's just doing this for the news headlines. He's like, well, if I start down low, I'll just go past everybody. And amazing. Up to P9, really in the mix now, just behind George Russell, who's in 8th and obviously not very happy with his penalty by the sounds of what we heard. So he'll be looking to make a charge through the grid as well. Antonio Giovinazzi. It's just so weird saying all these F1 names for me as an F1 gamer, but it's amazing to see. And Alex Albon looks like he's staying within touching distance of Charles Leclerc, and he'll need to before the DRS is activated next lap.
So turn 10 and turn 16, the drivers using all of the runoff that they can. So someone's worked that out earlier in the weekend with the practice session, and Antonio Giovinazzi, is he trying an alternate line as well? It's, well, track limits? What track limits? Who needs them? And we've got plenty of great racing through the field. Tell you what, Alexander Albon's closing in on Charles Leclerc at the front. Told you he was closing in. Back to the battle for the race lead. Ferrari ahead. These two know each other well. They've battled in the junior formula. These two went wheel to wheel for a GP3 title back in the day, and now they're racing for the Virtual Grand Prix lead on lap number 3, and that is a pretty decent time for the Red Bull driver to get DRS.
Absolutely. In the absolute pound seats is Alex Albon, 5/10 behind Charles Leclerc. They are very much romping away from the rest of the field. So let's hope Alex Albon doesn't make a mistake like he did in Australia, where he just completely fell down the field, and Charles Leclerc just took advantage of everybody else's mistakes. But for now, Alex could just settle into a rhythm, which I'm sure he knows. He's a Formula 1 driver, and he's just going to sit in the slipstream, take as much advantage as possible using that DRS, save the ERS. Oh no, they won't be using ERS actually, it's on automatic, so they don't have that problem. It's as accessible as possible for these guys. All driver assists are available, and I'm looking forward to this battle, but Alex has just dropped back a little bit over those last few corners.
So a bit of breathing space for Charles Leclerc, not so for the Mexican driver Esteban Gutierrez, who's using the AstroTurf to get himself out of the clutches of Louis Delatraz. Delatraz, the second place at Monaco last year, and he's got a fellow Formula 2 driver in this race as well, with Juan Manuel Correa and Callum Ilott, those two battling over 11th position at the moment. But Delatraz going nicely at the moment. He's been practicing a lot with the drivers that you see at the head of the field. And of course, Guan Yu Zhou, the leading F2 runner at the moment, as that's a move to try and block rather than overtake from Delatraz and trying to roar around the outside. The Alfa Romeo of Giovinazzi may be opening the door for George Russell, who, well, he said he was serious. I'm not sure if he was on the formation lap. And who went for, someone gone for an early, no, they're just taking that wide line. Of course, the pit entry is there as well, so I wondered if someone, no, George Russell has gone for an early stop. George Russell has gone for a bit of a pit stop strategy gamble. They've got to make one mandatory pit stop, and Russell has decided lap 4 is the time to do it. Matt, you're looking slightly surprised.
I think his tyres might be crying to come off by the end of this race, pitting at the end of lap 4. The only man, I think, actually in the pits. So George Russell, not sure if that's a strategic move or if he's really worn his tyres, but for me, that's far too early. He's going to be quick now, don't get me wrong, but he's got 24 laps to maintain those tyres. They'll be the hard tyres, of course, but for me, I'm thinking, well, the thing I said before the race is they want to qualify on the mediums so they can push their stint an extra sort of 9, maybe 10 laps. Then they can change to the hards, but 24 laps on hards, that's going to be a struggle.
to struggle to stay on the track at turn number 10 at the moment.
I'm going to go and install some Verstoppers.
Trying to close up on Delatraz, trying to get past. Look last time out. Interesting to see the different lines that they're taking as he goes round and it's just crucial to get the exit right there, because you're building momentum with every single metre that you run. You hear the beep, that's for DRS to tell him it's available on the soft tyres. Now the majority of the field are. Remember, Carlos Sainz was on the medium, but he dropped it at turn number 10 to head down to 15th position. We've seen a pit stop for George Russell to try and do something different.
Alex in the pits as well. Yeah, that's a move for the lead.
And there we go. So a bit of a clump over the tarmac there for Antonio Giovinazzi, and Charles Leclerc finds himself in the lead still, but now it's Guan Yu Zhou in second position, and Alex Albon going for the undercut strategy.
Very interesting for me. I think Charles done the right decision just to stay out, not to, well, he couldn't match Albon if he tried, but because he's ahead of him. But I think, yeah, lap 5 again, still quite early, and these guys will be struggling towards the end. So if Charles can extend this soft stint for a lap, maybe 2 laps, he'll be in the absolute pound seats towards the end of this race. Stoffel Vandoorne P3 still with Joe, which is good. Great showing from Vandoorne so far. Carlos Sainz, for viewers that are wondering how he's still in 9th after his incident, well, there's no damage, so he would have just had his spin. The only time he loses is from the actual spin as we come on board with the postman, Ian Poulter, who had a little bit of a grimace there as he went wide through that right-hander, but great to see him running in P12.
He was running in P12. And we've got Esteban Gutierrez getting past. I think we can check in with Ian. Ian, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh, well, that was a bit of a rude move from Gutierrez.
Yeah, it was a bit bullyish, wasn't it?
No, I didn't like that at all. We'll have a word with the stewards for you. Ian, how are you finding it so far? You seem to be working the wheel pretty heavily right now.
Yeah, I'm just getting used to it. I mean, it's a lot better than last time I was out, but as I'm right up the backside of Giovinazzi.
Are you going to send one for us? Go on, Ian. Send one down the inside for us.
I don't think anyone's ever scratched their nose going and making an overtaking move on Formula 1. That's amazing.
So Callum Ilot's got a penalty, and Poulter's got the inside line, and he's got the position back. Nicely done there.
By Russell as well.
So Russell gets past, and Poulter up to 13th. Ian, it looks pretty frenetic. We're going to leave you to it as we go back to the track action.
I'm loving it. Getting the wind now. Oh, right in amongst it now. Come on.
Good luck, Ian.
Let's have it. Oh, no, he's gone down the inside. Damn it.
Great to hear from Ian Poulter mid-race, the Ryder Cup legend, going wheel to wheel with real Formula 1 drivers. And George Russell getting past Antonio Giovinazzi as well. But not before Poulter came back. Jimmy Broadbent's in the lead of the race at the moment. And we got Liam Lawson in second position. On board with Juan Manuel Correa, twice on the podium last year in Formula 2, a driver who is currently working on his physiotherapy, trying to return to the racetrack, but he's been putting plenty of sim hours in, and it's great to have the American driver with us on the grid today. Running in P5 right now, he's got Callum Ilott, his old teammate in F2, further up the road. Carlos Sainz all over the back of him as those tyres fade away, as those soft tyres disappear. You can see Red Bull soft tyre on the Ferrari, and now the mediums on the McLaren, despite that spin for Carlos Sainz, going very nicely. And he talked about fixing a few issues with his sim. I think the issues with those sim might have been getting a few practice laps in for the driver who finished on the podium in Brazil last year. And he is up to P3. Those medium tyres working nicely for the Spaniard.
It's amazing how he only just had his sim, or he had issues with his sim, but he knows that line round the final corner, doesn't he? So he's done a bit of practice. 2 things to mention. Obviously, Jimmy Broadbent, that's going to be one of the highlights of his career, leading this race. I don't think he ever would have said that going into this Chinese Grand Prix. And the second one, Alex Albon has the net race lead in 6th position at the moment. Charles Leclerc all over the back of him, 2 tenths behind, but those two still romping out in front, 3 seconds ahead of the next challenger, which is Vandoorne now, so ahead of Joe. But, well, we've got 21 laps to go. It's a 50% race. Anything can happen, and Correa doing a fantastic job in P4, just ahead of Courtois, who has impressed me no end. He had a little bit of time to get used to his steering wheel. We had a change, but now he's up on the pace, and you know, he's doing a fantastic job. He's the Real Madrid goalkeeper. I mean, yeah, you have to pinch yourself, don't you? But it's amazing to see.
He's the world's most expensive goalkeeper, but he loves his motor racing and running P5 right now. As you say, Alex Albon with the net race lead. And you can see Alex Albon with that early stop, went for the undercut. It's got him track position. Will it pay him dividends with the tyres later on? Stoffel Van Dorn trying to close on the pair of them, having got ahead of Guan Yu Zhou, who is a race winner from earlier in the season back in Bahrain. Esteban Gutierrez still running strongly as well, but the top 5 yet to come into the pits. We're on board with P2 Jimmy Broadbent, and he has always put in a race charge for us. Now, though, he's heading it to the pits.
Early. Very early for the medium tyres. I'd say maybe another lap or 2 would have been ideal, but Jimmy trying to get the undercut on Liam Lawson, who just got ahead of him in the last lap or 2. Here we are, the battle for the lead. Charles Leclerc right behind Alex Albon, and I think we're going to see this for the majority of the race, as we have Giovinazzi getting a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That must be very cheeky indeed, because these rules are on lenient. So, well, we've seen where these guys are ending up.
Where is he putting the car around this circuit to get a penalty? Because right now, track limit's very, very optional. This could well be for the race lead later on. Alex Albon going for that undercut strategy, and you can see that they've put on the white-walled hard tyre. So Albon going in that direction. And interesting to see. Albon used to racing Leclerc. They've grown up together. They know each other very, very well. And right now, this winning streak, which looked like it was going to be extended with the pole position, under threat for Charles Leclerc. But he's got a lot of AstroTurf to use, and he's got a lot of laps to use.
From playing the F1 game already, you could hear him upshifting so early through that double left-hander where he knows the traction is difficult. So right, let's go up a gear and see how it feels. And he's done the testing, and he knows that just upshifting a little bit earlier is the best way on this F1 2019 Codemasters game. Riding aboard with Alex Albon, the net race leader. Did Liam Lawson, Carlos Sainz, Correa and Courtois all listen to me before this race? I'm going to say yes, but they're all on the mediums and they're on the optimal strategy, it has to be said. So I think even after that spin, Carlos Sainz could be in with a shout for a top 10 at the very least. But yeah, it's fantastic to see. We haven't got any changeable conditions like we did have in the Pro Sit exhibition race. Very exciting as we come into turn 1. We have Alex Albon still just ahead of Charles Leclerc, 3/10. You can see Charles almost pushing him round turn 1. There's not really much of an overtaking opportunity right here, but we now look towards this middle sector, and Charles Leclerc, this is one overtaking opportunity. We've seen it with Daniel Ricciardo in real life, taking the victory here, and they're actually coming up to some not back markers. They're the guys that are staying on the medium compounded tyre. Thibaut Courtois, P4, just behind Correa. How quickly can Albon get past? Well, that's his teammate, and it looks like Thibaut Courtois just got out the way a little bit there. And Albon up into P4. Charles Leclerc still behind. You can see him pushing the Red Bull and losing the back end. And oh, that was on the grass, I think, for Charles Leclerc. We're not seeing that right now, as Alex Albon still very much smoothly coming through into this last sector. And Charles Leclerc does get through on Thibaut Courtois, but it wasn't made easy. Next stop for Alex Albon, Juan Manuel Correa, running in P3. Can he do anything? I don't think he will particularly defend this one. But for now, Alex Albon just needs to get through. 4/10, 2/10. Make the move, Alex Albon, up the inside. Nicely done. Charles running a little bit wide through that. Oh no, that's collision. That's mounting by the looks of things, but I think that's actually just ghosting. And Charles Leclerc gets through just about and running wide through that final corner. Alex Albon just ahead of Charles Leclerc, and I'm not sure what happened with Correa there. Seems like a little bit of lag. George Russell, no. 3-second time penalty. He is running in P10 and will now fall down even further with 18 laps to go.
Oh, terrific stuff, Matt. Enjoyed that. Very much enjoyed that. And, well, really important to make the move nice and early on. And I tell you what, we've talked about the limited damage. And, well, thank goodness for Charles Leclerc that he had limited damage, because otherwise that would have been race over after contact with the Alfa Romeo of Correa. This is the battle for the net race lead in the Virtual Grand Prix of China, and you're on board with a Monegasque driver trying to close in with the Thai driver Alexander Albon, who finds himself currently occupying third place, but we expect Sainz to come in. We know that Liam Lawson will have to as well, the Kiwi racer. A couple of times on the podium in Formula 3 last year, in contention for race victory at Monza. Didn't quite happen for him. He was the youngest driver on the grid then, but he'll be enjoying leading the race. He will be hoping to get his Formula 3 title challenge up and running. So close, very close indeed, between Albon and Leclerc, and close between Jimmy Broadbent and Pietro Fittipaldi, with Broadbent slightly deep there into the turn 11-12 chicane that brings them to this long corner that really differentiates this circuit with its long corners and the stress that it puts on the tyres. Certainly if you stopped earlier on, you could be feeling that. But right now, all Fittipaldi's thinking about is getting past, and he's got the DRS open, getting past Broadbent and moving up to 14th place.
So Jimmy has a little bit of contact with the Haas there, just a little nudge to say, all right, off you go then. But the thing that I wanted to mention was Jimmy Broadbent, he pitted lap 7, started on the mediums. You can see Liam Lawson and Carlos Sainz still out there on the medium compound tyres. So clearly they're feeling a different lease of life compared to Jimmy Broadbent's medium tyres that came off on lap 7. So that's going to be the optimal thing for Carlos and Liam. So let's see where this ends them up in the next 17 laps or so. On board with Pietro Fittipaldi, running in P14. Also doing that sort of really early upshift where you can hear the engine bogged down, but it's the best way to do it on this track. So perfect.
So lap 11 of 28, and I believe we can check in with the driver you're looking at the moment, Thibaut Courtois, to find out how things are going. Thibaut, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How's it going so far? You've got cars absolutely everywhere right now, but you must be pleased with your race so far.
Yeah, I had a bit bad luck on the start because of cars, and then suddenly I scored. Fortunate because otherwise I had a decent start, but now it's going quite well.
Yeah,
box in a bit.
Running in the top 10, but yet to make your stop. What's your aim for the rest of the race, apart from to keep as many drivers behind as possible in this moment in time? We can hear you banging down through the gears right now, Thibaut.
Yeah, just trying to fight against those guys, and I don't know. We'll see how my pace is on the hards, and then I don't know. See where I can get in.
Well, thank you very much, Thibaut Courtois, for checking in mid-race. So many big names taking part in this third Virtual Grand Prix of the year so far. Carlos Sainz now in the lead because Liam Lawson has come into the pits. So Albon has slipped behind Charles Leclerc. 0.3 of a second the gap now, and the battle for what will be the race lead now in favour of Charles Leclerc, getting back ahead. But there's a lot to be resolved here as we still follow the Belgian goalkeeper. Third in the World Cup back in 2018. He finds himself 9th right now, with George Russell ahead, and Louis Delatraz all over the back of that Red Bull. And Ciro Immobile, the other footballer in the race, with a 3-second time penalty as well. We go on board with Louis Delatraz, who's trying to get past as quickly as possible.
It's great to chat to these guys. It's probably the only occasion you'll ever get to speak to a Formula 1 racer or driver whilst they're going side by side into a corner. I feel kind of bad, actually, as an F1 gamer myself. I'll be like, oh, please stop talking to me. I'm trying to concentrate.
Would you be that polite, man?
No, absolutely not. But the mental capacity of these guys are far better than my own. But here we go. Louis Delatraz should be pretty simple. And Courtois still on those mediums and not particularly running well. You have to say, Carlos Sainz had that spin. Will he go for the move? No, he won't. But Carlos Sainz had that spin running in P1. Courtois hasn't made a stop, down in P10. So for how quick he is, I'm a little bit disappointed with where he's running.
Stoffel van Dorn with a time penalty for multiple warnings. And this is going to... So they're definitely triggering it at one of the corners.
I would love to know where. Yeah, I would love to know.
Is it turn 10? Is it turn 16? Because one of them is clearly upsetting race control with the amount of penalties that we're seeing. Thibaut Courtois, who we just heard from, into the pits. The Real Madrid goalkeeper down to 16th position. So Carlos Sainz yet to pit as we go to another battle. That is a sweet move from Esteban Gutierrez with the better tyre life, and now with 6th position.
Fantastic move. Danny Rick-esque, sending him one way, going down the other. Lovely move. Correa doing a brilliant job in P7. very much on the pace on this F1 game. Don't think he's played too much of it, to be honest. I know he does like a sim, but running on those medium tyres at the moment. George Russell, will he still be livid after those penalties? Not sure, but he's running in P8. I'm sure he'd definitely want to be higher up the field, as he is on the pace with Charles Leclerc, as I mentioned earlier, maybe 1 or 2 tenths back, and that is probably not the cleanest move he's ever done.
Pretty rude stuff from George Russell, barging his way past, but I think that probably is reflective of his mood right now. And all Sunday evening for the former F2 champion. Looking forward to his second season with Williams, but he might not be able to hang on to 7th place, because here comes Louis Delatraz, and that slightly rough overtake has not done him any favours. Delatraz with the great momentum, he's got the inside line, so Russell will have to have much better traction off the corner. But of course, they're not taking the corner, are they? They're taking something near the corner at turn 16, and they're still very close together. This time, Russell with DRS, as into the pits comes the race leader, Carlos Sainz. So it's Charles Leclerc ahead of Albon, and now, once again, it's George Russell ahead of Louis Delatraz. Great battle between these two.
Brilliant battles up and down the field. Charles Leclerc, Alex Albon separated by 0.3 of a second. George Russell slowly and slightly rudely making his way through the field. Louis Delatraz looking just about similar pace as we come into this middle sector now. Very difficult corner this. Again, traction zone so heavy. Upshifting early through the gears. Now this long left-hander, maybe slightly difficult when you get when the tyres are starting to wear away and you have the dirty air of George Russell in front of you. And yeah, this middle sector is not easy. So I'd say in the next sort of 10 or 11 laps, we might see some mistakes from these guys that don't have the experience on the game that the Pro Series drivers do.
Now these two went very hard at it around the Austrian track of Spielberg earlier in the week. They are the two drivers contending for the race win. Charles Leclerc knows it as well, beginning to weave off the corner. Albon versus Leclerc for victory here at Shanghai International, with Stoffel van Dorn further back. He was the big winner in the major positions of that pit stop, and you can see Albon is really pushing those track limits, basically ignoring the apex of turn 14 as they go round the final corner. How much is it going to take? Not too much, not daft, but you can see in the background you've got Stoffel van Dorn, who is getting under some pressure from Guan Yu Zhou.
I think if they continue to track extend, I reckon Codemasters are going to be a little bit, well, they might turn up to strict rules. So Alex Albon now 8 tenths behind Charles Leclerc. Can he do anything? Can he do anything against Charles Leclerc? Stoffel van Dorn is actually slowly but surely making his way up to the front two as well. 2.3 seconds. I think that was 3 seconds last time I checked. So slowly but surely creeping his way into this fight for the lead. But then that might be just from fuel saving and all sorts. So Joe running very well indeed as well. P4, Esteban Gutierrez, both the Mercedes drivers running impressively well in P3 and P5. Shame to see Jimmy Broadbent falling down a little bit down to P14, but his tyres will be slightly better, but not much, as he pitted on lap 7. So I'm very interested to see what these guys' tyres are like towards the end of the race, because 24 laps, as we saw with George Russell, I think he might have a few things to complain about by the end.
We have seen the cliff so many times around this circuit in the past. Are we going to see the tyres run out of life and go off the cliff today? We don't have long to wait to find out. Around this circuit, 28 laps, half race distance in the 3rd Virtual Grand Prix of the year. Thank you so much for joining us for the action. You're looking at the battle for the lead. At one point, Alex Albon with the undercut strategy, able to get ahead of Charles Leclerc, but he has found himself undone. The Monegasque driver getting past and now beginning to inch his way clear as the two in the background, Van Dorn and Zhou, attempt to close in. This is the P2 man. Look at the concentration on the F1 driver's face. He knows that this race is far from lost. Wants to interrupt this winning streak for Leclerc, who has grown up with this generation of driver, with the Russells, with many drivers in the field as well. But right now finds himself the class of this field. As we see, we've heard from quite a lot of drivers today, but we can't quite check in with Alex Albon, and I don't think he would be giving us any answers if we did, because he is really trying to scythe into the gap. And this is just great. This is two F1 drivers, and you can see from that camera angle the effort he's having to put in as he uses every part of the racetrack and a bit more to close down the gap and try and take victory.
These guys race against each other week in, week out, but they can never speak to each other, which is a different element to this racing. And you can see Alex having a bit of a laugh as well, potentially speaking to Charles. But this is a crucial point in the race now. 12 laps to go.
You see him wiping the sweat away there. Yeah. That is how hard Alex Albon is working.
Again, he's not wearing a helmet, so it's all different for him. But 12 laps to go. Charles Leclerc has 1 lap fresher tyres and is starting to pull away. This is a crucial point in the race where Alex needs to just expend all of his fuel, maybe some of his tyres as well, really push to get back in that DRS zone, because if he doesn't, we're going to see another romp from Charles Leclerc. That's a very strange phrase, isn't it? But a romp away in these next 12 laps, and maybe even Zhou and Van Dorn might start to creep back towards P2.
Oh, Guan Yu Zhou right now in P3. Will he stay there with Van Dorn putting the car in a dangerous position? Try to hang on around the outside of turn 2. And it's Guan Yu Zhou who finds himself retaking the position that he lost at the pit stops. So that undercut strategy, good enough to get you track position, but not good enough as the race progresses. And Zhou, well, he's already had a race win earlier this year in Bahrain. Slightly defensive into turn 6, knows he's not yet clear of Van Dorn, but right now, he's in P3 and he will be delighted at what is, it might be a virtual Grand Prix, but it's still his home event.
Absolutely, fantastic racing. I don't think it's going to end just yet either. Van Dorn will not want to take that lying down, and he's just going to wait for his next opportunity. This middle sector, very much single file. You can't really make much through the Harris. Yeah, I reckon that's probably where they're getting warnings when they're going even further than that. But most other places on this track, you can't cut. It's just an apex and then grass, but there isn't really any cutting opportunities from what I can tell. So I think it is them running extensively wide, if that even is possible with how wide they're all going anyway. But Van Dorn just about in the DRS zone. Alex Albon not. Van Dorn could potentially have a look into turn 2. Turn 2, turn 1 even.
So Leclerc now 1.4 seconds ahead of Alex Albon as the tyres begin to fade away. Seen a similar thing with the battle for third, with Guan Yu Zhou ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn. Guan Yu Zhou last year 5 times on the F2 podium on his way to the Rookie of the Year title. He took a pole position as well at Silverstone, so he likes the high-speed circuit with a flowing feel, and at certain parts of this racetrack that's exactly what Shanghai International Circuit is, but not so much here as we go back to the battle for turn 2. So there's only one difference between the hard tyre of Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc, but it was enough for track position. That was confused at the early time that they came into the pits. And it won't just be Albon who's having to look after those tyres, it will be Leclerc as well. This will not be easy flat to the finish, and Carlos Sainz will be kicking himself for that early race spin, because you can see even with the spin on lap 1, he's in 11th position, could have been right in the upper places there without that spin at the very start of the race that sent him to the back of the field.
He's rapid. Carlos Sainz is rapid. The fact he's P11, the fact that he ran so long on those medium tyres at the start of the race. He's on 4-lap-old hard tyres. Charles Leclerc, Alex Albon, Zhou, they're all on 12, 13-lap-old hard tyres. So for me, it's not over. Carlos Sainz could easily finish in the top 8 here. And also another person, Liam Lawson. He has a 6-lap-old hard tyres, so he's going to be looking fantastic as we go into the latter stages of this race. There you go, 6 laps, 4 laps. They're going to have they're going to have too much rubber on their tyres by the end of this race, whereas everybody else is going to be down to the carcass. So right now, it is going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds. The guys towards the end the bottom of the field even have either had 1 or 2 stops, so they're struggling as well. But Thibaut Courtois, like to see him maybe make some moves, but he's 6 seconds behind Jimmy Broadbent. I don't think he's going to be particularly happy. I feel like everybody we've spoken to hasn't done particularly well, Alex.
And that is the commentator's curse, Matt. That's how it works. You mention them, they have a bad race. You speak to them, even worse. So Charles Leclerc still in the lead, but with that question mark over the tyres, they did come in very, very early on. Liam Lawson, the Formula 3 racer, with that advantage and only 0.4 of a second away. It'll be very interesting to see if he clears Antonio Giovinazzi. How quickly can he then close in on the others? Not too far. It'll be about 5 seconds up the road after that to Louis Delatraz. So we'll check in on the progress. Keep an eye on the 9th place driver to see if that tyre advantage is as big as Matt potentially thinks it could be as he tries to make his way further up. Here is Liam Lawson, all over the back of Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo, former GP2 runner-up, putting a little bit of dirt on the circuit, and so much of the circuit depends on the traction that you've got underneath you. This is a part of the track where that is absolutely true. Try to avoid the oversteer, keep it planted. It's very much in the DRS zone. All these cars equal in terms of performance. That's straight line speed, that's gear setup, that's absolutely everything. And Giovinazzi having to go defensive because there's a difference in tyre strategy playing out here, and Lawson knows it, tries the up and under. This is where you need good traction. At the moment, Giovinazzi just about able to keep him behind. So it's not a devastating difference in tyre grip between the two. But as you can see, the Italian driver, expecting to start his second season in Formula One, really struggling to keep the F3 hotshot behind, and it's brave to go all the way around the outside, but that's exactly what the Kiwi is trying to do. Doesn't quite have the room, and now tries to put his car in the middle. They bang wheels once and twice, and still Antonio Giovinazzi stays ahead of Liam Lawson, and all the time that Lawson is doing this, he can't use that tyre advantage to catch others ahead. Still, we go down to turn number 6 with this not yet resolved. Giovinazzi with the older tyres, but with track position, and Liam Lawson, from attacking the Alfa Romeo, now finds himself looking in the mirrors and falling behind Nicholas Latifi.
You can have as much of tyre advantage as possible. If you lose talent, then there's nothing you can do about it. So Liam Lawson, unfortunately, although still side by side with Latifi up the inside, gets that position back. Will he get the traction out of that double left-hander? It looks just about like he's going to hold on, but will he get DRS? He won't. So I think that he could lose a position again to Latifi, and with Carlos Sainz flying in the background, Liam Lawson might be losing positions. So again, is that a curse? I think I've done it again, even though he's got 7 lap fresher tyres. Well, actually, no, he's actually gained quite a bit of time on Latifi there. So there you go, I have reversed my commentator curse, and Latifi is coming under pressure from Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, Sainz with an alternate strategy to come flying through the field. We saw that a couple of times last year. We're seeing it again. And he's trying to break up into the top 10. The papaya McLaren nearly appearing on the left-hand side. Latifi just about doing enough. You can see the graphics, that's what we're talking about. Lawson with only 8-lap old hard tyres and only 6-lap old hard tyres for the McLaren behind the Williams. But I don't think he will be behind for too long. Change of position now for Louis Delatraz. And Delatraz in 6th. Gutierrez falling down to 7th place. And Gutierrez, who started 59 Formula One Grand Prix, hugely experienced. Personal best of 7th place back in Japan all those years ago, but falling down to 7th place right now in today's race. It's a 2.3 second battle for the lead between Leclerc and Albon. Guan Yu Zhou in 3rd place, but look, Van Dorn has not left him alone. Not by a long shot, within DRS, and this is the battle that looks set to go all the way to the end of the virtual Chinese Grand Prix.
Very tasty indeed. We're coming up to that crucial DRS point. Will Van Dorn be close enough? He has to get on the traction, has to just be so patient, but it's agonising. You want to get past Joe, you want to get the best run of your life down here with DRS. It doesn't look like he's going to be close enough coming into the hairpin. But there are 2 DRS zones, so let's see if Van Dorn just calms it down into this hairpin, takes it nicely, and he's closing in, but not close enough, and again, he's just not getting the traction he deserves. And 4 tenths behind coming round this final corner, and they go wide again. Still agonising to watch that, but they're all allowed to do it. And I don't think he's going to be closer into turn 1, although it's going to be a little bit tight. No, Van Dorn not close enough, and it's coming into that single file section, unless he does a Danny Rick.
Well, we'll see if Stoffel Van Dorn can do that. Another driver whose personal best was 7th in Formula One, and he's trying to get on the podium once again. He was 2nd in the first Virtual Grand Prix of the year, and he's looking to try and get on that rostrum one more time. George Russell racing angry for most of Sunday. Didn't believe he should have had a grid penalty. He's not too far away, but it's only a tiny amount of time that he's able to take out of these two, despite the battling. Contact could change all of that. We've seen that earlier on in the Pro Esports exhibition race, but right now they're all behaving themselves. None of the chaos from round 1 has been repeated. The standard's been pretty good so far. Alexander Albon had a good lap last time round, took a couple of tenths out of Charles Leclerc. But right now, you'd want to have that 2.1 second gap. So we're focusing on the battle for third as we go on to that kilometre-long back straight that takes us to the hairpin. Plenty of time to think about it. That's a good run for Stoffel van Dorn. Now he's got DRS, you heard the beep, and now he's got third position. Can he pick his braking spot and take the place back that he lost? A brilliant race-long battle between these two, but it's the Belgian driver who gets past the home favourite. He is up to third position. Leclerc, Albon, and now Stoffel van Dorn.
Giovinazzi out of the race from P9, it looks like. I'm not exactly sure how, but he has left the session. And must be a wheel or game issue, but either way he is out of this race, which promotes Carlos Sainz up into P9 now after getting past Latifi. We're looking at Van Dorn and Zhou. This race is going to, as you say, go right down to lap 28 of 28. They're on the same amount of worn tyres. They both pitted at exactly the same time. It looks like they're exactly the same pace as well. They've got that DRS zone to make the moves, and to be honest, right now I'd be thinking, look, let's just work together for these next few laps. See if we can close the gap to Alex Albon, who actually seems to be closing just slightly on Charles Leclerc, 1.9 seconds. It was over 2.
He's had a good couple of laps as Albon, now 1.8 marginally. Very, very interesting in the battle for the lead. Let's check in one more time with Ian Poulter. Ian, you've had your fair share of big sporting moments and high-pressured stuff. Where does this compare, being in the middle of some actual Formula One drivers mid-race?
You got me all flustered on that last corner as well. I just keep looking in the bottom left corner of the screen, and I can just see Charles come in like I'm under so much pressure. It's unbelievable. I mean, yes, I'm an F1 fan, but I'm being like, oh, I can see him in my mirrors. I've never sweated so much. I've got to be honest with you.
How was the heart rate coming with the 5 red lights coming on? Were you quite nervous, or just hoping to not be involved in incidents?
Yeah, I just wanted to stay clean, and then I got taken out in the second corner, which was a real shame because I'd actually passed a couple of people, which I was delighted about. But I'm about to be lapped any second from Charles here, I'm sure. But this is not easy at all. This is just so much fun, but more pressure than what I experience week in, week out.
What has been the most difficult thing for you picking up this game? Because you do a lot of sim racing, you have your own sim rig, but F1 2019 is a completely different ball game. What have you found the most difficult picking up the game?
Well, it feels a little different to the other game I play. I mean, it's just these guys are so quick, and then you think you're okay, and actually you're rubbish. So I think it's managing the expectations and the disappointment of guys like this guy that's right behind me right now. I haven't been blue flagged, so I'm sure that's it. He can ghost his way past me.
He can, but he's a 2-time Grand Prix winner. He is a 2-time Grand Prix winner, Ian. He's no slouch right now.
Maybe I can get a little tip from actually watching some of the lines he's taking, because he's making me look relatively slow. Well, in fact, I am extremely slow. But it's just incredible. I mean, these guys are. There's a reason why they're paid what they're paid, and I mean, I wouldn't be half as... Oh, look at that now.
Oh, no.
Oh, you've got me all flustered.
We've ruined Ian's race. Oh.
Another one.
The commentator's curse. Ian Poulter, thank you so much for speaking to us and showing us just quite how talented the rest of the F1 field are. I tell you what, you can get your own back. We'll see how good this lot is at golf sometime in the future. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, boys.
Thank you, Ian. Going round nicely, P18, he's going to finish ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi, and he is showing just the talent that is on show in this third round of the Virtual Grand Prix. 2.6 seconds, so Albon had done a really good job to get the gap down to 1.8. It's now 2.6 seconds as Leclerc has made his way past the traffic. And we were able to speak to the traffic. And very good of Ian Poulter to join us twice, even if he did have to sacrifice some of his race for us. It's on lap 25 and 28. Okay, close battle right now between Esteban Gutierrez and Louis Delatraz. Louis Delatraz is trying to move past, but as you've seen, the car goes invisible, and you're able to ghost past when they're a lap down, so there's no back marker holding up or any shenanigans that way. So Delatraz, I think, trying to pass him properly, but he eventually will be passed because he does not have to get he can just go straight through Ian Poulter, and the same applies now for Esteban Gutierrez. So slight hesitancy there from Delatraz, and now we're going to see Esteban Gutierrez use the toe of the car in front. There we are, ghosting past, and he can go back to battling last of the late breakers, Ian Poulter. You love to see it. And they get past now. So, Swiss driver ahead, Louis Delatraz, and he's got Esteban Gutierrez that we're on board with for the moment. Lap older tyres, but he seems to have the advantage. So it's how you use your tyres as well. It's a 2.3 second battle out front, and Guan Yu Zhou has not managed to stay with Stoffel van Dorn. So right now, the podium looks set, but we've said that before and seen things change late in the real thing, in esports, and maybe we'll see another example of it in this virtual Grand Prix. Liam Lawson going very nicely indeed in 8th place. He's used that strategy really, really well, along with Carlos Sainz, recovering really nicely to get up into the top 10 on his, remember, virtual Grand Prix debut. And George Russell showing that he's had pretty consistent pace with the drivers ahead. That gap at one point was high 2 seconds, and he's just been chipping away lap after lap. So he's getting closer to Guan Yu Zhou. Meanwhile, back with the race leader, Matt. He seems to be in control right now.
Seems, if we went and spoke to him, I'm sure that would probably go downhill. But yeah, Charles Leclerc, very measured drive. He broke out of DRS, and Alex Albon hasn't really had an answer since he broke away with those 1 lap fresher tyres, which at the front means everything. You know, you have these 7-8 lap differences in the mid pack, but when you're so closely contested with your contestants, with your rivals, 1 lap is a couple of tenths maybe sometimes towards the end of the race at least. So Charles Leclerc using that advantage very well indeed, 2.5 seconds ahead. I know you mentioned about the ghosting. I'm sure they would love to have that in real life. You just drive straight through the back markers. That would be a lot easier, but unfortunately that isn't the case. But yeah, it looks set for the podiums, the podium sitters. I'm trying to think of someone that I'm really impressed with in terms of driver of the day. I don't know if Carlos Sainz got hit or if he got spun. I would like to think he got hit with the pace that he's shown. So Carlos definitely has to be up there with driver of the day. Who would you say, Alex?
Be very impressed with Liam Lawson, considering that he has made his debut as well, and he finds himself ahead of a driver who has taken a position on a Formula One podium. So he will be very pleased with that, running the same alternate strategy. So been impressed with Liam Lawson, been pleased that we've seen what Alex Albon can do in this virtual Grand Prix setting. It sounds a bit daft, but he dropped it on lap 1 last time, then had a fantastic recovery up to 8th position. So it's been good to see him mix it at the front, even though he looks like he's going to fall just a little bit short. You're watching the closest battle on the racetrack at the moment, which continues to be Louis Delatraz against the driver we're on board with, Esteban Gutierrez. And Gutierrez just looking for weaknesses ahead. They're pretty similar on tyres, so it's going to have to be a brave old move on Delatraz later on in the final stages, and that wide moment for Delatraz is exactly the sort of thing that Gutierrez is looking for.
You can see around that long right-hander as well, the tyre carcass, the debris coming off of the wheels. You know, you can see that as we go into this race, going offline is actually a lot less grippy, which is a nice little feature that Codemasters have put in. But you know, they've got to stay on that racing line, which means that potentially around that long right-hander they're not going to be flying off to wherever the hell they're going before. But they're still doing it around the final corner, so clearly there's advantage to be gained. But yeah, final lap now. It looks pretty set, as you say, for the top 4 now. I mean, Russell is closing in on Zhou, but will it be enough? I'm not sure.
He's going to have one opportunity, I imagine, with that gap. A mistake potentially from Guan Yu Zhou, or maybe a late lunge into turn 14 at the hairpin. Same applies to Louis Delatraz. He's got enough of a margin ahead if he can just pick the braking spots. And he's been solid all the way through this race. He will be very, very pleased with that. And special mention as well for Juan Manuel Correa, also on debut. And in the battle of the footballers, you can see that Thibaut Courtois is ahead of Ciro Immobile. So back to the race leader with just the final sector really to go now. Last week, it was utterly dominant stuff from Charles Leclerc. He was a class above everyone else. Today, Alexander Albon made it past lap 1 facing in the right direction and has applied the pressure all the time. but the outcome is going to be absolutely identical. He has taken pole, and he is one corner away from converting it into another superb victory. He can see the checkered flag. The Monegasque driver comes downhill, and Charles Leclerc wins the Virtual Grand Prix of China from Alexander Albon. 2 in a row for Leclerc. Albon onto the podium for the first time in a Virtual Grand Prix, and Guan Yu Zhou gets ahead with that penalty applied for Stoffel van Dorn. It will be Guan Yu Zhou heading to the podium in 3rd place at his home event, and George Russell, for all of his irritation today, he is going to finish in 4th with a strong showing. 3rd last time, 4th today, but once again, the class of the field has been Charles Leclerc. We're on board with his teammate, Callum Ilott, as he comes across the line. Leclerc, Albon and Zhou, the podium after 28 laps of thoroughly entertaining racing.
It was amazing. Brilliant measured drive from Leclerc. As I say, wasn't particularly troubled after he managed to break the DRS. Here we see Courtois coming over the line, 15th place. I'm sure he'll be wanting to come back a bit stronger next time, but I'm sure he will definitely want to race again. The Virtual GP, fantastic. It's great to see the Formula 1 drivers, but it's also great to see the non-Formula 1 drivers, to show the accessibility of this game. Some of these guys are doing fantastically well, and some of them maybe not so quick, but, you know, let's see.
Well, a good effort as well. We're on board with Ciro Immobile, who is finishing off his race. The Lazio striker will bring it across the line. I'm sure he's enjoyed himself, and he's not finished too far away from Anthony Davidson, who remains Mercedes simulator driver. Over the line for the Lazio striker, and he cruises across. Well, excellent race, excellent contest, good pressure from Alexander Albon, but in the end, Matt, no one could do anything about Charles Leclerc, the winner again, this time around Shanghai International Circuit.
Thank you so much, Alex Jakes and Matt Gallagher. Brilliant commentating on those magnificent 28 laps. I think you said it perfectly when you said thoroughly entertaining racing. I'm sure at home you enjoyed it as well. I know that Natalie and I did. Just about Ciro Immobile, incessant movement makes him a nightmare to mark in the real world, but they found it very easy to overtake him today. So there you go.
Can I start by saying just how magnificent it is to be racing again, albeit virtually? That was incredible, hugely entertaining, such a cross-section of talent and characters, and as Alex alluded to, it's just great to see people from other walks of life, like Ian Poulter, coming in and racing against the stars of the F1 grid. Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it was wonderful. I feel like we all felt a little bit with Matt and Alex constantly. It felt like pestering him with questions. He really didn't. I mean, he's sacrificing his race there, but the competitiveness there from him, golfer, yeah, but performing at the highest level, and he wants to succeed. He's a little bit off the pace though, and it shows. Let's shout out Charles Leclerc. Fantastic driving again. Pole to winning a race. That's 2 in a row now.
He's just taken it in his stride, hasn't he? I mean, you know, he's wonderful to watch on the track in real racing, and same goes for virtual. I mean, that was a race peppered with penalties. I have to say, they were all racing with reckless abandon there. I'm not sure you quite see that on the racetrack.
Yeah, there was George Russell was pitting very early on, lap 4. Giovinazzi, the penalty exceeding track limits, then he left the race. Anthony Davidson, let's talk about him for a quick second. You did set him a target to improve. He's had all the sim racing from Mercedes, but didn't deliver for you. OK,
I need to talk to Ant, because I'm telling you, that was not representative of his talent. He definitely had a problem there. At one point, he was like 30 seconds behind. So I need to talk to him. He did apparently put us on mute. I don't blame him. There's plenty of people that like to put us on mute, but I'm sorry, Ant, we can have a chat about this.
So, listen, obviously, Natalie, Sky F1 presenter, you watched that. It had everything. It had the spoils. It had the drama. It had everything for a race.
I mean, the little puffs of dirt. I mean, we may as well have been in Shanghai. That was so fantastic to watch. I really felt the adrenaline searing through my veins. I felt so excited. Yeah, it's just been a breath of fresh air and a really difficult time for everyone. I hope everyone at home enjoyed it as much as we did, because that was brilliant.
Well, he had a bit of a tricky race back in the Grand Prix in Vietnam, which actually took place in Australia, because it's not in the team game. That man is Alex Albon. He was finished the race 8th in the end, but he started P5. There was a crash in lap 1. I believe we can talk to Alex now. I believe he's there. Alex?
Yo, hey. Do you see me or do you just say me?
Great to hear you this evening, Alex. I just mentioned the P5 that you had down to 8th in Australia. This was a better race for you, finishing 2nd.
Yeah, I didn't crash this time, so that was the main thing. I kept on the black stuff. Charles got the better of me. He's been very cool. I am disappointed, though. I'm not going to lie. Back to the drawing board for round 3.
Brilliant race from you, Alex. No, listen, we loved watching you. How impressed were you with your teammate, Thibaut Courtois?
I know. He's so fast. So Thibaut's been driving with us quite a bit in the practice session. And, yeah, I think when I first started testing around China, Thibaut was quicker than me. And I was getting a little bit worried for my job. and then did you even see, we even did team tactics going through he held up Charles for a couple of corners. So it was good fun. We were having a good laugh over here.
Yeah, you were definitely laughing before the race even started. George Russell was so angry. Has he calmed down? I mean, I know you can hear him.
I think we should get George a penalty for every race, just to annoy him.
Listen, he just couldn't believe he was up in P2. He's never experienced that on an F1 track.
I know. But yeah, I think
Give him a break.
I know. I mean, normally if he had a 5-place grid penalty, his position would have changed. But this one is from P2 to P7, isn't it?
We're all very much enjoying the banter, the laughter that's having. Are you enjoying sim racing at the moment, Alex? Obviously, me and Natalie were talking about it. She described it as like you're sitting on the subs bench waiting to get out there, race again. Is this keeping your skills sharp?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think if you look at other sports, like football would have FIFA or you have NBA. I'd say racing is one of the only sports where you could really properly keep active in a pretty realistic way. So yeah, I do love it. I think it's obviously not the real thing, but to keep time ticking over, it's been really good. I've been really enjoying it, and I think it's more just a love. I'm sure you guys. Maybe this race is a bit more serious, but when we go to when we do streaming and whatever, it's just a bit of, yeah.
Yeah, well, your competitive element was there. Natalie enjoyed it. Listen, we'll let you go, Alex, because obviously you need to take a bit of rest before you get back out and obviously answer George Russell's call. No doubt he'll be calling you.
He was sweating. I saw him mopping his brow a couple of times there, Alex.
Yeah, honestly, I sweat more in this than I do in real. Unbelievable. Anyway, I need a towel.
Well, thank you.
I'll have a towel and... Yeah.
Well, listen, Alex, thank you very much for the insight. Enjoy. Hopefully, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for our next race. Natalie, there you go. I need to just let everybody know the DHL fastest lap went to Stoffel van Dorn. Fantastic racing from him. There's actually a poll. We don't know because in the game, Zandvoort would be the next Formula One race, the Holland circuit in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, that's not in the F1 2019 game. So we're putting it to everybody at home. You need to decide where we are going to race next. Your choices are the Japanese Grand Prix, Suzuka. You've also got the Circuit of Americas, the Brazilian Grand Prix, or we could go to the Mexico Grand Prix. Out of those, Natalie, which one would you choose?
Well, we will be here at Giovinazzi Arena, the magnificent home of eSport racing, but I think I won't be alone in voting for Japan.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, I'm going to put it out to you guys. Get on the F1 socials on Twitter. Also, there'll be a link down at YouTube as well, just below me. So make sure you put your stamp on where we go next. But as we come
Interlagos is quite good.
Yeah.
Thinking about it now. It always produces a great race in Brazil.
It does indeed, and Alex Albon knows exactly about that, but let's not dwell on that for a second longer.
He might get his first podium there, you never know.
Well, it happened to Carlos, didn't it?
He did.
Listen, also, let you know, we are working on something for next Sunday. We might actually have challenging an F1 driver. I can name no name, so seriously, watch the socials on that. Listen, finally, Natalie, have you had a good outing from the F1 real-life racing into the sim world?
I cannot thank you enough. It's been brilliant. It's definitely gone a long way to giving me my fix for racing.
Perfect. Well, listen, well, I'll hopefully get you back again as well. I want to thank the commentating guys, Alex Jakes, Matt Gallagher, doing a sterling job up there. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You deserve your break and rest now, as we do too, because we stop now. So don't forget, get on the F1 socials on Twitter and on YouTube. Say where we go. We've got the Japanese Grand Prix up for grabs, the Circuit of Americas, also the Brazilian Grand Prix and Mexico. So listen, from me, Tom Deacon, from the Giovinazzi Arena, we will see you soon for another Virtual Grand Prix. Take care.
4-5 lights are on. It's all to race for. Coming to turn 4. Oh, he's hit him. He's done it. Oh, he's hit it too.